Imagine a mirror, set in a heavy gilded frame, standing in the dim light of Whitehall Palace. Gazing into it is a woman whose name makes all of Europe tremble, Elizabeth I, the Tudor, the Virgin Queen. But what she sees in her reflection terrifies her more than the Spanish Armada. Before her is the face of a 50-year-old woman, pitted with smallpox scars, betraying wrinkles and a paleness she considers a sign of political death. In that era, beauty was not a matter of vanity, it was a matter of national security. The queen could not afford to look mortal. She had to be an eternally young, radiant demigoddess, Gloriana. And to create this image, she turned to the most dangerous ally of the time, Venetian Ceruse. In the 16th century, the ideal was skin as white as fresh alabaster. This symbolized purity, nobility, and, importantly, a total lack of physical labor under the scorching sun. If you were as white as a sheet, it meant you were fabulously wealthy. But nature rarely grants such whiteness, especially after a bout of smallpox. The solution was found in a mixture called Venetian Ceruse. It was a thick, sticky cocktail of vinegar and pure lead. Elizabeth applied this composition layer after layer, creating an impenetrable mask on her face. She did not know that with every brushstroke, she was signing a death warrant that would take decades to execute. Lead white sat perfectly on the skin. It hid scars, leveled the tone, and gave the face that lunar glow, celebrated by poets. But lead is a cunning, slow killer. As soon as the ceruse touched the pores, a process of slow annihilation began. The lead was absorbed into the blood, causing what doctors of the time called consumption of the skin. Ironically, the makeup designed to hide flaws created new, far more terrible ones. The lead literally ate away at living tissue. Beneath the makeup, the skin became gray, flaccid, and shriveled, taking on an earthy hue. What did Elizabeth do as she watched her face crumble? She applied an even thicker layer of white. By the end of her life, her makeup resembled plaster on a wall, a good quarter-inch thick. It is said that if the queen had accidentally tripped and fallen face down, her makeup would have remained on the floor as a solid cast, like a plastered death mask. If you think lead was the only horseman of this cosmetic apocalypse, you underestimate the ingenuity of Tudor alchemists. To make the skin appear as transparent as porcelain, washes of corrosive sublimate mercury chloride were used. This substance didn't just whiten, it literally ate the top layer of the epidermis. Court ladies called this face stripping, unaware they were performing a chemical peel of such intensity that it is banned in every country today.
Something is amiss.
The skin thinned
My
to the
lady?
state of parchment, through
feel
which
so
bluish
faint.
veins peered.
Catch
Most
her!
ironically, these veins were considered
Gently
so
now.
aristocratic that those who didn't have them visible drew them on with blue pencils over the lead white. It was a surreal masquerade, living women trying to turn themselves into artfully painted corpses. But the poison did not stop at the surface. Lead poisoning, or Saturnism, struck the internal organs and, most terrifyingly, the nervous system. For decades, the queen suffered from agonizing headaches, depression, fits of uncontrollable rage, and chronic insomnia. Her famous red hair began to fall out in clumps, exposing a baldness that had to be hidden under heavy, cumbersome wigs. These wigs were an engineering feat in themselves. They were soaked in starch and powder, which also contained lead and arsenic. Elizabeth was a passionate fan of the red hair trend, but by the end of her life, her ceremonial wigs, numbering over 80, were fixed onto iron frames. To make the hair shine and hold its shape, it was smeared with lard mixed with clove oil. This fatty mixture was a true feast for palace rats. Records exist of ladies in waiting being forced to sleep in special metal mesh cages so that rodents wouldn't eat their hairstyles and parts of their scalps while they slept. Fashion literally required one to be on guard even in the arms of Morpheus. If Elizabeth's face was as white as death, her lips had to be as red as blood. For this, A lipstick based on cinnabar was used. Cinnabar is mercury sulfide. Every time the queen licked her lips or ate, microdoses of mercury entered her body. Mercury caused hand tremors, hallucinations, and the total destruction of the gums. The queen's teeth turned black and fell out one by one. Contemporaries whispered that her breath was so foul it could knock an unprepared page off his feet, and her speech became increasingly slurred. Here, history takes a truly absurd turn. To match the queen's image, the noble women of London began to intentionally blacken their teeth with soot, imitating royal rot. Imagine a ball where the most beautiful women in the country smile at you with pitch-black mouths, considering it the height of fashion. It was the apex of the absurd, a voluntary imitation of the signs of fatal poisoning for the sake of social status. To make the eyes shine with divine brilliance, court ladies used drops made from belladonna. This plant, also known as deadly nightshade, dilated the pupils, making the gaze appear soulful and deep. The price of this look was gradual blindness and a racing heart. Elizabeth lived in a world of hallucinations caused by mercury, lead, and belladonna, surrounded by a retinue that poisoned themselves just the same, so as not to appear more vibrant than their mistress. No less frightening was the fashion for a high forehead. To appear intellectual, Elizabeth plucked her hair 2 or 3 centimeters up from the hairline, using pastes based on quicklime and arsenic. The result was a massive, shiny, eternally inflamed forehead, considered the height of elegance. True chaos began in the realm of personal hygiene. Water in the 16th century was considered a dangerous carrier of disease, so the queen took a bath once a month at best. To hide the smell of an unwashed body and the rotting sores beneath her makeup, Elizabeth literally drenched herself in heavy perfumes based on musk and ambergris. The scent in her chambers was so thick that foreign ambassadors complained of dizziness. But the perfumes weren't simple either. They often contained alcohol mixed with essential oils that reacted with the lead on her face, turning the makeup into a sticky, darkening mass. By evening, the queen's face might begin to slide, and valets would frantically patch it up on the go, layering new lime over old grime. The most agonizing part of this daily ritual was not just the concealment, but the removal of the makeup. The lead mask could not be washed off with simple water. It was too greasy and dense. Aggressive mixtures of mercury, vinegar, lemon juice, and even urine were used. Yes, urine was considered an excellent agent for cleansing. These compositions literally stripped the top layer of skin, leaving the face raw, inflamed, and defenseless against the next dose of lead the following morning. It was a vicious cycle of pain. In the final years of her life, Elizabeth committed an act worthy of true tragedy. She ordered all mirrors in all her palaces to be removed and destroyed. She could no longer bear to see what her face had become beneath the layers of toxic lime. When the young and brash Earl of Essex once accidentally burst into her bedroom before her makeup and wig had been applied, he froze in horror. He saw not a demigoddess, but an emaciated creature with gray skin, sparse clumps of hair, and sunken eyes. For the Earl, this moment was the beginning of the end of his career, and for the Queen, the final blow to her pride. Even the Queen's rest was saturated with toxins. Candles made of cheap animal fat tallow emitted a biting black soot that mixed with the lead white on the faces of those present, causing the makeup to literally turn gray before their eyes. To save the situation, even more bismuth was added to the powder. The entire court turned into a chemical laboratory where every element, from lipstick to candle soot, led people to the grave. Elizabeth died a long and painful death. She refused to go to bed, gripped by paranoia and fearing that if she lay down, she would never get up again. She stood on her feet for 15 hours straight, leaning on a staff, while her mind finally flickered out in the grip of lead encephalopathy. She could not speak, only pointing a bony finger at invisible ghosts she believed stood in the corners of the room. The lead that once gave her the mask of eternal youth finally took her sanity. Interestingly, the fashion for lethal beauty outlived the queen by 2 centuries. It wasn't until the mid-18th century when the famous beauty Maria Coventry, Countess of Coventry, died at the age of 27 that society truly shuddered. Her skin had literally rotted, and her internal organs failed due to the daily use of ceruse. Newspapers of the time wrote that she was a victim of her own vanity. But even after this, women continued to use dangerous components, such as arsenic wafers, biscuits with arsenic eaten, to give the skin a noble pallor. The motto was simple: if you don't look like you're about to faint from exhaustion, you aren't aristocratic enough. Today, we look at the majestic portraits of Elizabeth I and see the triumph of Gloriana. But if we look closely through the layers of oil paint, we see the tragedy of a woman who became a hostage to her own myth. Beauty requires sacrifice. This phrase, in the Tudor era, was not a figure of speech, but a dry medical fact from a pathologist's report. When, after Elizabeth's death, her ladies-in-waiting began to wash her body, they found that the makeup was so deeply embedded in the pores that it had to be scraped off with knives. Beneath the mask lay the exhausted body of a woman who was the first great victim of the beauty industry. The Virgin Queen ruled the seas, but she could not defeat the heavy metal particles she applied to her face every morning. Her mask became her coffin. And therein lies history's ultimate ironic lesson. When we try to cheat time with poison, time always strikes back with absolute precision.